everybody. I'm Sheri Hudson-Passing from Carolina Girl Genealogy, and I want to welcome you to GenFriends. We are going to introduce my panel, and then we're going to talk about the upcoming season of Relative Race. So I'm going to begin with Melissa Barker because she's got to head out in a few minutes. So our archive lady is here for just a few minutes to help us out. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here, even if you can only be here for a few minutes. We've got Shelley Murphy, our family tree girl. Hi, Shelley.
Hey, from Virginia, everybody. Glad to be here too.
Glad you're here. Mary Kircher Roddy from MKR Genealogy and the Applied Genealogy Institute is here.
So very good.
Glad that you're here as well.
Nice to be here.
I'm glad you're here. We've got Laura Hedgecock from Treasure Chest of Memories. Hey, Laura.
Hi, guys. I'm also glad to be here.
And of course, last but not least, we've got Jenny Hawran, who is here, and she is from Like Herding Cats Genealogy. Hello, Jenny.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here too.
Yeah, well, you know, we cover Relative Race, and starting on Sunday, September 22nd, we have got season 14 coming up, and we thought we'd take a few minutes to talk about the new teams that are coming. But you know, we don't have a lot of information about these new teams. The videos are out, and we'll if you go to the Facebook page, which we will link to, they're very short this time, and so there's not a whole lot of information about these teams. And then we thought we would take a few minutes and share maybe some of our favorite moments from Relative Race, and then what we'd like to see is for you to post yours in the chat. That would be great on the YouTube or on the blog post. That would be so much fun to hear what your favorite memories are. To 14 seasons, it's unbelievable. But Melissa, I want you, before you have to leave, could you tell us maybe your favorite moment from Relative Race?
You know, it's hard to say a favorite moment. Now, I will say this too. I am I don't know, I kind of call myself a genealogist purist. I don't watch any kind of what do you call it? TV like this. And so I was coming to it kicking and screaming.
Yes, she was.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, we need you.
You know, and so when I started watching it, I was like, oh, you know, I don't want to really watch this, but I wanted to be part of the, you know, what we were doing. And you know, I enjoy the stories, I enjoy all of that. So I don't particularly care for the gaming part of it, but I enjoy the stories, and you know, and then I enjoy it every season. So I think I've been watching what, 3 or 4 seasons now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you know, my favorite is actually the beginnings of the season, because that's when you get to know their story.
Yes.
And that's when you get to know why they're on this journey. And so, but as far as a particular favorite, I just don't have one. There's just too many to pick from.
Too many, and we don't want any of the teams to feel like but sometimes they're just the moments that stand out, and then you start thinking about it and go, oh, they're every team has got a moment that stands out for each season. So Laura, you can share your screen if you want.
Oh, let me go back to
she found a picture.
It's really the header on the
yeah,
just so people can see what the teams
look like. Yes, if you haven't seen it. So
you see my screen. This is just a nice yellow background.
Yep, it's coming. It just hasn't come up yet. It says you've started screen sharing. Does anybody else see it? Oh, there it is. Yes,
there it is.
So there are our teams, and then if you want to watch the videos, you would just scroll down, and I'll put the link in so you can do that. So why don't we take
that's basically, you're right. Yeah, scrolling down.
And then they've got scenes from all these different seasons you can go back and look at too. So that is a fabulous place for you to go and find out what's going on with Relative Race. There's also a Fans of Relative Race page and a Relative Race Live page that you can post into, become part of those groups on Facebook, which are really fun to do. And then of course, some of us live tweet during the show. So we invite you to do that, go to X and live tweet, because that is a lot of fun. I mean, even if you don't use X, it's still fun just to go on, just so you can live tweet, because a lot of times the teams come on and will live tweet. A representative from Relative Race is always on there live tweeting, and so that's
so you can't, there's no verb for X. Like there was a verb.
I know, at least you can say tweeting.
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do
And
too.
I
I
know.
think
I do
Randy
too.
does too.
Yeah,
Right?
I
I
do
still
too.
call
Yeah,
it
I do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see if we can just talk just for a few minutes about some of the teams, what we learned about the teams. I know Jenny was gonna
Yeah,
talk a
Team
little bit
Green.
about Team Green, what she learned from the video, which I'm saying the videos are very short this time.
Yeah, this one though had, I thought, a lot of information. It was the last one that they posted,
Yes,
Team Green.
heartbreaking
And it
information.
really was heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
so Team Green is two best friends, Pam and Laura. I don't know if it's Laura Jean or it's Laura and her last name is Jean, but she said Laura Jean like it was her first
Yes,
name.
yes,
So
yeah. Yeah, usually they don't tell us their last name, so I'm assuming it's Laura Jean.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So Laura Jean is adopted, and she her adopted siblings were much older than her,
Mhm.
12, 13, 14, 15 years old, she said.
Mhm.
And her adopted brother supposedly kept saying to their mom, I want a sister, I want a baby, I want, let's, adopt another baby. So she was adopted. She was saying that her parents were older, her father
Right.
was like 40. And but she and her brother were like thick as thieves, even though he was older than her. I mean, and just best friends. And then he tragically died in a mill accident, and she was just obviously devastated. But it gets worse when her
Yeah.
parents passed away. Her other siblings, her sisters, her adopted sisters, just never spoke to her again, never
Oh,
contacted
right.
her again.
Yeah.
I was like, I wasn't expecting that at all. And so she's obviously, seeking family, and she's got a lot of trauma
Mhm.
from that. So I'm really interested to follow her story, and
Right.
hope she finds some
Yeah.
closure
The closure.
and family.
And she's
Absolutely.
looking
And
for
I'm hoping,
biological family.
yes, yes. And
Mhm.
so
Both
I'm,
sides or one side?
it didn't say, did it? I think she just said
No.
biological
Yeah,
family,
yeah.
right? And I'm hoping we hear a little bit more about that story. And maybe sometimes those we learn a little bit more and it's not as bad as it seems, but sometimes
Right.
I'm really hoping that it's really not quite as bad as
Right.
it seems. So Melissa's got to head out, and so we're so sad that she can't
Bye.
continue
It's
the
going to be a
Bye.
great
conversation.
season, though. Can't
But
wait
it
for it.
is going to be a great season. See you next week, Melissa.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I know that Team Black is a mother son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This says Joby and Vic.
Mm-hmm.
Joby, I think, is the mother, although she doesn't look 52 years. She claims she is, and she wants to find answers about her family. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
all that I have.
Right, and
Just-
her son's coming to support her on that, so that's going to be really interesting too.
So it's a mother and a son.
Mother and a son.
I've only seen some of the videos. That's why I'm following.
Yeah, they're the
Right.
curly haired ones.
Yeah.
The curly hair ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
No
means,
question that he's her son.
that's
Yeah,
right.
right.
Which means that when they say they can't go, they won't go up and say whose relative are you, because they're both their relatives. So they'll just have to find that connection. So they're both
I'm curious
learning.
to see if we see where those curls came from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We probably
They're clearly strong
Yeah,
in the
Very
genes.
strong. You
Probably
want to make
will.
bets on that Irish, maybe?
I don't know. I'm just I'm just straight haired and jealous. So
Oh yeah,
Me too.
mine's straight too, straight and thin. So okay, and then we've got Team Red, and they are friends, right? And it sounds
Yeah,
to
so
me,
Team
yeah, go
Red
ahead.
is Precious and Camille. They are strangers. They
Mhm.
didn't know each other
Know
before.
each other.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got another one of
Um,
those teams. So this will be interesting.
So, and their video was really short. They said they both were looking for family,
Mhm.
and they recognize that they will be going through the same emotions as each other,
Yes.
and
So
so they're to
support
support each other, but didn't say anything about their backstory or who they're looking for.
Exactly. They're not giving away much in those
Mhm.
pre-videos this season, are
Well,
they?
it sounds like
Team
we got
Blue
a
had
strategy we're dealing with on
Yeah.
this
Maybe
one.
it's a
Yeah.
strategy to make sure we get in there and watch, just given us just a little bit to
Team Blue had a little more.
Uh-huh.
They're Daniel and Johnny.
Mm-hmm,
And Daniel was adopted at birth,
mm-hmm.
and Johnny was adopted by the same couple, but 10 years later,
Yeah,
when he was
Correct.
6 months old.
yeah, so
But
interesting.
they lost their adoptive parents. They didn't say how old they were, but their
Mm-mm.
adoptive parents, their mom died in 2009 and their dad died in 2017. So both their adoptive parents are gone.
Mhm, mhm.
And so they're looking obviously for their biological families.
So this will be
Can't
interesting.
imagine how
Yeah, because it'll
this
be
is gonna go with the
Yeah.
two,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yes. And how many times have we said, wait a minute, one is getting more than the other, and we might have another case of that because they can't manufacture
Just who they find.
who they find. And so it'll be interesting to see if we're going, no, why didn't this person find, this person had 3 in a row, it's this person's turn. But it's just the way the research goes and the way the DNA
Well,
connects.
and not only that, I mean, you say this as well, Cheri. I mean, not every person is a great person to introduce to someone, and relative
Right.
race has to take that into consideration too.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
geography too. You just don't
Geography
know
Oh,
too.
true.
And
what
You know
kind
what?
of came from.
and we've discussed before, like you said, Laura, these kids were taken from their homes usually, unless it was the mother who relinquished their child because they felt like they couldn't raise them, say a teenage girl or something like that. But when they've been pulled out and put into foster care, there's a reason for that. So they've got to be careful with who they introduce them to. And so that sometimes we've got to remember as well before we get angry.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I did listen to the clip on Facebook for the blue team, and they're 10 years apart.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're 10 years apart, and they've lost both of their the adoptive parents. And again, where is this going to go in the connection? Because it sounds like there's no one else in the family either.
Well,
maybe just the two boys,
maybe.
The two brothers per se.
Right.
So again,
Exactly.
it's the anticipation of what's going to happen that's driving me nuts.
Yes.
And
speaking
of the good friend and the other
season
lady.
12, we had the same kind of thing happening. We had brothers. We had Abe and Eric who were adopted brothers looking for their family. And so that was and they broke the curse for blue team as well because they won. So if you want to talk about memorable moments over relative race, that was a great moment for relative race. So we thought that since we were kind of doing a review of the teams and season 14 coming up, that we would talk a few minutes about if we had any favorite teams, which is so hard. I mean, like we said before with Melissa, it's hard. So if any teams watch this, it's not we're picking. Sometimes
we love you all.
We love you all, and so we don't have like 4 hours, an hour per, to go through this. And so I just wrote down a couple of things that popped into my head. So I'm going to kick us off just by saying, and I've said this before, what got me so excited about watching Relative Race. We watched season 1, and we all know that season 1 was their starter season. BYU doesn't own that, and so it's not on. You can't go back and watch season 1. But so I had watched it, and then I went to Roots Tech, and I was sitting in the booth, and this sweet young man came and sat down next to me. And he had a Relative Race shirt on, and I noticed people around him talking had Relative Race shirts on, and I looked at him and I said, "Are you on Relative Race?" What a dumb question. "Do you work for Relative Race?" And he looked at me with those sweet eyes of his, and he said, "I was on season 2, and I wish I could tell you how much it's changed my life." And that was Joe. And Joe was looking for his dad. His mom had died when he was 6. He didn't know anything about his dad. He really didn't know a whole heck of a lot about his mom because his mom died when he was 6, and he wanted to find his father. And so he went on the race with his new bride. They hadn't been married for, I think it was under 2 years. They were newlyweds when they went on this show. And what got me and sucked me in, that I never want to miss a season, never want to miss an episode, is when he walked up, they knocked on the door, and this older man comes out and he says, you know, who are you related to? And of course he said Joe, and he says, how are we related? And he said, Joe, I'm your father. And I was just, I mean, I teared up, and
And
every
I
time I
bawled.
see that scene, I cried, and Maddie was so excited. She whacks him like, oh, you know, so that was my, I don't know, that's got me hooked. That was my gateway drug into Relative Race.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, I have loved that so much ever since. And then just everybody meeting their family. And I just kept writing down all these things. So if anybody can't think of anything, I just kept writing down all these things, you know, all of season 6, you know, because they just loved each other so much, and just all these different things. So who would like to go next before I tell yours?
I mean, the thing with me is I'm terrible remembering the names or the season.
Yes, they
I'm
all
awful.
go together, but I love them all.
So maybe you guys can help me out
Okay.
here, because I know it was Team Black, and it was maybe 2 seasons ago. It was a father and son, and they lived in a small town and started to realize that they were
Yeah.
related to
everybody.
everyone.
Yeah.
And, like, they all like they
Jamie
just drove in a
and-
circle basically
Right.
and came back to the same place, you know?
Yes,
Yes.
Jamie, and I'm trying to think of what his son's name was. I know what it is, and it's not coming to me, but it was, yeah, and it's everybody.
That
So
was hilarious.
Yes.
I guess I kind of related to that a little bit. My own
Jansen was
experience
his son's
here,
name.
I'm related to people I didn't know I was related to, and I'm finding that out. So I sort of related to that. It stuck in my head, and I just thought it was a great
Yes.
story, you
That
know.
was great.
And
And
what
you
a
know,
great genealogy
yeah,
point you're making
yeah.
with
Yeah.
that
You
within
just never
the
know
community.
who
Yeah.
you're related to.
Yes.
A
Exactly.
one
Community.
place study.
Oh, and
Yeah.
and that's what they had. And that one started out kind of unique too, because they had found out that Jamie's father, they had found him, but he was very ill. And so
Right.
they had them go and meet him before they even
Right.
started filming for the show. And his name was Billy Jack or something like that.
Billy
Jack.
yes,
And
Jack.
he rallied after
Yes.
that and visited, to the point where he was able to be on the show. So, but then he passed away pretty much
Not
really
too
soon
long after
after
that.
the recording of the show. And actually so did Joe, who I was talking about from season 2. His dad passed away really quickly after the show was done recording too. So it was a blessing for both of them to be able to meet their
Sure.
fathers. Who else has got a favorite memory they'd like to share? Laura?
I think her name is Tiffany Suarez.
Yes.
And
Team
I
Red.
think it was 2021. I found a picture of her and her brother. She found 2 brothers she was Team Red.
Mhm.
She found 2 brothers, but one brother who had a big beard. So they didn't look exactly alike, since you know, he's beautiful and doesn't have a beard. But I just loved the bond that because she found 2 brothers, but they just had this bond, and it wasn't just her finding a brother, it was him finding her. And I felt like it was when Relative Race started more embracing the family gestalt story, and not just the contestant story, that you could see. And they followed both brothers and how they reacted to, hi, I'm a sister and I'm in your life, and things like that. So I guess that's one of my favorite ones. And I'm like Melissa, that the games leave me cold. If I didn't watch it live, I would fast forward.
I don't mind the games.
Nobody's listening.
I think I don't mind the games, only because it kind of helps with their personalities, and sometimes it's a relief for them to have something else different to do. But I don't mind the games. That's
I
just
don't like the icky food games. I like the puzzle games. I'm all about the
agree with
puzzle.
you.
Yeah. And the one they did, was it last season or the season before, where they had to feel and they were feeling into the box, and it was actually
It's a rat.
head, and it's a rat. So sometimes they're just really, really funny, and I think that the show needs that, because it's so intense. That sometimes I think, well, think about the rubber chickens and how much that helped when the engaged couple, Team Black, Leighton
Yeah.
and, oh gosh, anyway, they got the rubber chicken. And
Right,
so
Leighton was the daughter.
Yeah, and so yeah, she was they were getting ready to get married, and so they were given rubber chickens as a
Right.
as a penalty
you know-
prize or something, and so that was good. Mary, do you have a favorite?
Well, so you guys know me, and what an addict. I mean, you're talking
I
about your
know.
street corner
Keep
drugs.
digging.
I
You know,
know.
for me, it's the pause button on my
Yes,
remote
that's
control
right.
that I can, as soon as I see a document, I'm like all over that document.
Yes, she is.
It's like,
She
oh,
even
what
tells
can I
us
get
where
out
they're
of that?
going next. I can't tell you guys how many times Mary has put in a chat. Well, I know where they're going next. I know where they're going next. And that's where they're going
so-
next, because she has found a
So,
family.
I mean, I love the stories. I love
Mhm.
so much about this show, and
Mhm.
but I will always joke that I'm there for
Yeah.
the drugs.
You're
You know,
there for that, yeah.
Right,
She's
right.
there for that, yeah.
Yeah.
Last season, what sticks out too is Team Black. She had the journal from her mom,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they
yeah.
yeah, and they've done it. Shelley, have I asked you about what your favorite moment is? I don't think I have. What is your favorite?
Not yet, but I can respond.
Yeah,
I'm
please
gonna be
do.
like the rest of you. I'm not, Joe would have been my first one.
Yeah.
And
Like
I
a
just
first love.
rewatched that. I just rewatched that, just a few days
Yeah.
ago.
And doesn't Maddie just whack him? She's so excited. Like, I told you they'd find your dad.
Yes. But I'm not totally a fan of the games, but I want to say one thing. Do you remember those earlier seasons? The games weren't like they are now.
Mhm.
And so some of them involved a little history, the
That's
local
right.
history.
That's right.
And those I was
Yeah.
okay with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the histories that connected to their ancestor
Yes,
or
those
their
were great.
relative.
Those were great.
So those I like,
Yeah.
but the physical ones and the gooey stuff, I'm okay watching them, but
Yes,
I
but
would-
we need those ideas for that family
I know,
union book that is never going to get published, but
I know.
It's-
And but there's also certain points where you have either the couple or there was a father and a son, and they were Team Blue.
yes, yes,
And I can't think of their names right now, but he was able to meet his biological mother and father.
right.
And but they were just
Michael,
characters.
Michael, and I can't
Michael,
remember-
yes,
yeah, I can't remember the
and
first name.
Jamie,
Sorry,
maybe?
there's just a lot of say that again.
And I was trying to think of the son,
The
but I
son.
can't remember. But
Don't be offended. I mean, we are fans, but they just kind of start.
it's just so much.
There's so
But
much.
that
Right.
would be another memorable one,
Uh-huh.
because no matter what, he
Right.
just lost his breath when he met his mother.
Right.
And it's these moments and the
Exactly.
memories that they're now
Right.
building,
Yes.
from now the current engagements that they're getting, the
Right.
reconnecting, and
Yeah.
where they grow from here. So hopefully maybe relative race will do, like Who Do You Think You Are, Long Lost Family. They
Yeah.
have a bunch of folks come
They've done
back
a
together.
few. Yeah, they've
and
done a
stay.
few of those, and you can Google and find those. So yeah, they
Yeah,
have done a
but I
few
don't
of
know if
those.
they have them on relative race yet. I haven't
I don't
found.
think so. I think that you can Google it though and find them somewhere, like on YouTube or something. I believe that you
Yeah.
can. I'll look and see, and then if I can find them, I'll put the link on. I also
And the
looked at
last
that-
thing-
Oh, go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah,
Continue.
last thing wasn't it Thaddeus's grandmother
Thaddeus.
Yes.
that made the comments about Dan the man?
Yeah, Dan the
Mhm.
man.
Okay, that was another
Dan the
memorable
man. She was
spot.
flirting with Dan the man. Absolutely.
Yes.
And you know what I love
And
about
that was special.
Thaddeus and Karen? It was the first time an adoptive mom had gone on the
Yes.
journey.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
another
It was
point.
fabulous. And over the years, they have made sure to honor the adoptive family instead of making it always like, oh, we don't care about adoptive family. We want to find a real family, and so I am so grateful that they have included the adoptive family who loves them and supports them on this, and they hadn't shown that before. So that was wonderful. And one last thing I want to say before I forget, and then Laura, you had something I could tell that you wanted to say.
No, you took it.
Oh, Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm
She
so
took
sorry.
Joe from me too.
I was gonna say a lot of times too, we get the videos and we hear their stories, but as they do the research, they're able to let them know the truth in stories. Remember that Rebecca on Team Black, and she now
Oh,
works
yeah.
the relative race. She had always heard that her father had killed her mother, and it turned out to not be the case. And so that she had fallen off these stairs and he didn't push her. And so that was something that she was able to find peace with. The real stories, I think,
Right.
helps them because they come in with what they think is the story. And then through
Yeah.
research and meeting, people, they come to know a truer story, than what maybe, because sometimes adoptive parents, we don't know their stories. If we take
No.
kids in through foster care, or we adopt them through foster care, they only tell us so much. We don't know the stories. It's not that we don't want to tell our kids. We don't know ourselves because we don't know the full
Right.
stories. We only get what social services tells us, and that's all we know, and that's all we can pass on to our kids. And so I love that they're getting a fuller story as they go through this process. So that makes me happy as well. Anybody else got a
I'll
Laura?
say one other thing is, at this time each season, there's a little part of me that is just like, well, I won't like these people
Yeah,
as
no,
I
as
like
much as I like the others.
But then, like, the first episode, you're like, oh, I love them all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you don't think, you think, oh, this season can't get any better.
Mhm.
But by the end, we're like, we love these teams and we love this season because they're all
And
unique.
we don't want anybody to go.
And we don't want anybody to go. So, season 6 was wonderful because number one, we loved JD and Jen. We
Yeah.
loved them. We loved how that whole season connected, but that was the first year of the golden ticket. And so we're like,
Yeah.
yes, nobody's really going home. We get to see, who they meet. So the changes over the years, I think, have been great too. Some of them are like, you don't ever like that. We don't know if they're going to get strikes this time because they stopped the strikes last season. So that's going to be interesting to see. Mary.
Well, I was just gonna say some of the changes, I really like it. They've done some wonderful things,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Some of the final contests, they just seem so disjointed and not really relevant. And there was one, I think, when they were maybe in Boston or Washington, DC, and they did like a history walk and trivia around it. It was so interesting. And
Shelley
as
was
a
doing some of those
viewer,
history challenges too.
we almost had an opportunity to
To learn.
participate.
Yeah, exactly.
But when they're climbing telephone poles, or
Exactly.
I'm not there, it's got
Exactly.
nothing. So.
Exactly.
They're trying to flip a tire.
Yeah. Any of those kind of things. And we've had some interesting starts to the shows as well. We've had race car driving. We've had the whole castle that was close to where Melissa lives. And so she was all excited about that because it's
The construction zone was the best.
construction. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Or when they were helping
did a
build ramps
project?
on that house.
Right. I think that was my favorite when they built the ramp for the house and did that service project.
I
The
agree.
movie theater one where they
Oh
really
my
had
gosh,
all
that
of
was
the best.
That was
absolutely
good.
Yes.
that was absolutely the best, where they got to know each other by watching the films and they bonded straight away. I mean, they do get to meet each other before the show. I mean, they really do. They get to kind of talk and meet each other, but that was a whole different level of finding out about each other. And so I really love that. And I hope that sometime they do that again. And I know that they make these changes because they're trying to make it a little bit different and new each time. So it's not always the same. And every TV show does that because they're trying to make sure they don't lose viewership and people aren't going, oh, it's the same. But it can't be the same. They're different stories for all these
The
people.
stories are all different.
They're all
Except
different.
everybody's trying to reconnect with somebody.
Yeah.
But how that is. Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking about Anitra too on season 6, Blue Team, and how she had a genealogist come, and I can't remember how she worded but I happen to know him, Andre Kearns. So it was exciting.
I do
to
too.
see-
Yeah.
yeah, to see somebody that I knew come on, and he's part of her family, and to share the genealogy. So sometimes that's really fun.
Oh,
if you-
he wrote that whole chart out on the
yeah,
table. for
he
them.
did. And so that was
Yeah.
fun for me to actually see somebody that I know, and that, you know, I see from time to time. I'm actually on a board with him right now. So.
I just met him a couple weeks ago, actually,
Yeah.
on a Zoom thing. So
Did you say I
yeah,
saw
it
you on
was-
Relative Race?
I didn't make that connection
Oh, yeah.
that he'd been on Relative because I didn't know him
You didn't
when
know
he
him
was
then.
on
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
yeah.
So that was really fun to
That was.
see him. Yeah, yeah. And when they go to places near where we live, I always go, oh, how come I didn't know that you were in South Carolina, or you were in, you know, wherever they might be close to. I mean, they were actually in 2 different seasons. We're in the next town over, one north of me and one south of me.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, no, their cars around driving. I can see them. But they're smart not to let me know.
They are.
Well, I think you'd behave.
I would behave.
No.
No,
No.
yeah, I would. I really would. I'd behave. Yeah, I wouldn't want to spoil a season for
Except
anybody.
for maybe telling a
fun.
couple of us that we could come too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Telling a couple of you that you could come
Well, the
too.
next time you get that close, put Zoom on and we'll be there.
That's right.
That would be great. That would be great. I'm looking. Has anybody else got anything that they can that they remembered that they would like to talk about? Oh, there's always Joe and Jerica. Oh my God.
Oh, yes,
Joe
definitely.
and Jerica were the last really teams that they weren't looking for adoptive connections. They were just on it for
Right.
fun, to find family, and they found some really cool things that they didn't know. They thought they knew everything about their family. And we've seen that happen with whoever's coming to support the person that's looking for a family. They'll find a relative shocking them, and they'll say, I thought I knew everything. But I mean, who can forget Joe thinking there's a shark in the lake, and
And the car wash.
the car wash, going to the car wash, and just
So we should
he
be
was-
encouraging
he was
people
a-
to go look at these previous seasons.
exactly. He was a breath of fresh air. He was so funny.
Yeah.
You know, Joe with the hair, as we call
The
him.
hair.
So,
Love the
and
hair.
he, yeah. So, and he, a lot of times he will live tweet depending on what's going on in his life. So, or live X.
Because that was him and his sister.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And so it was fun. And they found a recording for them of their grandpa or great grandpa singing. Do you remember that?
I
That
think
was
I
yes.
did,
really,
yeah.
yeah. So that was really cool for them. So there have been a lot of fun things. I did listen to an interview for Dan Debenham, where he was asked his favorite moment, and this was recorded February of this year. So it's pretty recent. And so he chose season 5, Team Green, the brothers who couldn't drive. Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Oh, and
yes.
Daddy was the driver.
Daddy was the driver, and he was talking about the reason why it was so he loved it so much was because, you know, of course they thought they would be able to get these boys their driver's license before they had to start recording, and they couldn't. And so they started trying to think, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then they realized that now they were from the same mom, but they had different dads.
Yes.
And I had their names in my head, and now they're gone, and I apologize for that. So they found that one of the boys' dad was a truck driver. And so they got a hold of him, and they said, would you come be their driver? And of course he said yes. Of course they had rules, but when they were starting out and they told all the other people that they didn't have a driver's license, but they still wanted them to be on the race, because they started saying, well, they can't be on the race then. They can't drive. And they said, well, we found a driver. And they all started saying, do you remember? Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair. That is not fair that they're going to have their own driver. Until Dan turned around and said, this is your father. Suddenly they're all in tears, and they're all like, okay, we're happy about that now. And he just said,
But he had to follow the rules, though.
yes, he had to follow the rules. But Dan was just saying the emotion of that, and watching people go from, oh, that's not fair, to being so accepting that he had discovered his father, just was so emotionally touching for him. And think about I mean, he goes through this every season, you know, he's so touched by all these teams every season that for him to even pick a favorite, which he says he hated to do, but that was so emotional for him to watch the teams turn around like that, that he was saying that that was his favorite. Now, whether that'll change, you know, in the future or whatever, but at that point, as of this past February, that was his favorite. So, I think that's just beautiful. And to watch these reunions and the power he was saying of people finding finding out who they are, regardless of whether it works out, because I know that Kelly, from Team Black 2 seasons ago, sorry, Kelly, I can't remember when. I mean, she hasn't had the best, results from her, from, you know, contacting her, because remember, none of them wanted to even have anything to do with her, right? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Neither side. And so she was helping her adopted brother Patrick with his, but then she did find some family, but things have not been rosy for everybody, you know, as
Those were heartbreaking.
those were
And
heartbreaking.
then-
People's stories afterward, just because there was a good reunion on the show doesn't mean that things continued, you know, and they've done some miraculous things, like Team Blue a couple of years ago found the blonde hair that was strangers, people who didn't know each other again. The blonde, they found was it his father? I think it was his father, who had been a drug addict and was on the streets, or was that his mother? One of the two.
Oh, yeah.
They found that person, and
Yes.
you know, I mean, they've done some miraculous things on this show, people that you would think that were never going to be able to be found. And so, yes, Mary.
Well, and there was a winning team, and there was the brothers that had one of them had a physical disability.
Yes, the
That's
twins.
the one.
And
she was
they
talking
were
about.
homeless.
Twins.
But
Yes,
the winning
twins.
team
the winning
reached
team.
out to where they lived and got a
Yes.
place,
Yes.
a church there, and
That was
got
the
them
one
to
that Dad was
give
the
support.
driver.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, that was.
Joseph and Anthony.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
And actually where they moved was down around.
And who
where
was Team Red? Who
family
mentioned,
was at.
who was Team Red that year? So they're the ones that won, and they're the ones that made sure
Helped
that
them
place. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
with
pull
some
that
of the
name up.
winning.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. The people watching will
Was
know.
a husband and a wife.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
they
it was
were
a
the
husband and wife.
Philadelphia people, I
Yeah,
think.
they were.
Yeah,
it
a
was-
husband and a wife.
it was husband and
Yeah,
wife,
they
and
were
she
Philly.
runs. Yeah, and yeah, so she runs a foundation, and so yeah,
Yeah.
that was really cool. And for some reason, I've just blanked. There's so many teams and so many names to remember, but I know their faces, and we've talked to all of them. Just about every one of them has come on GenFriends, and we've
They're
appreciated
all
so
special.
much. They're all special, and their seasons and their stories are all special, and we love that they will share their stories with us and share their stories, because that's got to be hard for all these people to be watching their stories, you know, and learning so much, and of course the relatives that come on, and now everybody knows their story, right? That's got to be difficult, and I think that's why some of them choose not to be on the show, and then we'll meet them later because they don't want it aired, because some of it can be hard or embarrassing, or you know,
And
whatever
some people are
words
just
you wanna
super
use.
private.
Super
you know.
private.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I will
Yeah.
say though, maybe not everybody, but everybody I know who watches Relative Race, it is full of wishes for good outcome, etc. I mean, most people
Yes.
aren't there just because, I mean, if we really want to watch something scandalous, there's
Yeah. There's plenty of stuff,
BYT
and yeah,
where we're gonna
yeah.
go.
yeah, really. Relative Race is not where you're gonna go to find Maury Povich, you know, it's just not, or any of those types of things. It's just not. And
The
that's
most
the beauty of the show too, is that we know that when they choose the teams, they want to make sure that the team members are protected during the process as best they can. Some things are hard, and they do, you know, have to cut and let them have a few moments, but they try really hard to make sure the teams are protected, and that this comes, it's for the best for them, and for their relatives as well. They don't want that scandalous kind of thing. And so I think you can feel the love from the production, and you can feel the love for the people, the teams to each other. I mean, how much do we like now that they are really
And they changed
talking.
over the seasons where the teams bonded too.
The teams are
And
bonding.
that was an
Yeah.
interesting turn
Yeah.
too.
Right. And I'm wondering if all along the teams were bonding, but just the way they produced it, we weren't seeing that.
Mhm.
But I do know that there was a definite change in
Shift.
after season 6. You know, that's when everybody started wearing everybody's bracelet, remember?
Yeah.
And so now the teams do that, where
Mhm.
before they only had their color on.
Well, and they had that whole trash
Mine are here
talking thing
too.
Yeah.
that just turned
Yes.
off so
Everybody.
much of the
Mhm.
audience.
Yep. And
And
so
I
and a
think
lot
that's
of it
why
was
they changed.
pretend. Yeah, so much of that was just pretend. I mean, they really weren't trash talking each other, but the way they edited it, it sounded like they were fighting and arguing when they were really just playing around. And the team members afterwards were saying, no, guys, it's just the way they showed it. We're not mad at each other. We love each other. We're glad that, you know, everybody's finding their family and that kind of thing. So, but I
Once
really
you get to
yeah.
episode 9, it's all over. It's competition.
That's true. That is
going for
true,
the money
as it
now.
should be, but as it should be, it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money to win, and a lot of
Yeah.
them are using
I gotta
that.
say something before
Go ahead.
I go.
Yeah. Oh,
Remember you were talking about Team Black and
Yes.
you just said her name a minute ago.
Uh-huh.
And she was helping her adopted brother and she was adopted.
Yes, Callie. Yeah.
Callie. Do you
Mhm.
remember the every time she met somebody,
Mhm.
thanked them for showing up.
Yes, she did.
Yes. And
Yes,
you
she did, because
felt
she thought she
that.
was gonna meet no one.
Right, because of the experience, you know, and
Right.
this, that, and other. But she was so happy for him
Yes.
and the
Yes.
connections and reconnections he was making.
Right.
But the impact to her that someone actually showed up.
Yeah.
And the
Absolutely.
respect for that, you know,
Yeah.
you could just feel it, you know, and that's my, I have to leave, but that was my takeaway. Was another favorite moment was understanding these experiences. And
Yes.
again, we don't get all of it, but we get
Yeah.
what we can see on TV, and the
Yeah.
rest were, you know, thinking of it.
I had another memory just pop into my mind, and I can't remember what season.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what team color they were, but he was looking for he was the older kid in foster care, and he had all the younger siblings. He was looking for them.
Oh,
and
yes.
oh my
Oh.
gosh. And yes,
He was red
Yes.
team.
it was blue team.
They were red.
Oh,
No,
red.
they were red. They were red.
Team. And they were also from Philly or from New York.
And
Yes.
they walked in the room, and his sisters everybody was there, and they just fell to the ground crying.
Yeah.
That was
And
incredible.
it was
Yeah.
2 of them. Isn't that the first season when they put people that didn't know each other
Maybe
together?
it could have been.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
And then we
That
had
was red.
the one guy find his grandma, and that team red, he found his grandma, and how wonderful that. I mean, there's just so many things
So
every
many.
season, every team. And then once we close tonight, we're all going to be thinking of other seasons, other teams. We love you all. We love every one of you. Laura, did you have another thought?
I think we should ask the people that watch this show
Yes, I
to tell
know.
us in the comments what their favorite team is
Me
or what
too.
their favorite video is.
Absolutely.
Instead of saying favorite team, say favorite
Or just memories.
interaction or
Yeah, your
experience.
Yeah,
memories.
right.
What
Yeah,
you think
right,
about
right.
those, what pops into your head? What do you love? We want to only hear what
Yeah.
you love about relative race.
And what did
so,
you take away from that?
yeah, what did you take away
You
from it?
know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how excited are you that we're on season 14? So with that, we could talk all night about the different.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything that's gnawing at them that they really wanted to share? So somebody didn't think that they were going to be left out. I'm thinking about the
I
food
just
fight.
want Mary to keep watching those documents.
Yeah, exactly. Watch those documents, Mary. Tell us where they're going next. Yeah.
We're gonna have
I'll just sit.
Mary's live tweets are it's gonna be get the spelling of
Maybe
the
her back up. If she gets it, we can start sending it out.
Exactly. So, and I'm thinking about too, the married couple, Team Green. Oh my goodness, I can see their faces, and they've been on the show a couple of times. They've been on here with us, and I'm sorry. It's just that
Deshay.
Well, Deshay, yes, and Chris,
Yeah.
from Team 6, and then there was, I want to say 9 or 10.
I don't know how you remember that.
They went to Arizona. He found brothers. I mean, it was just Yeah, it was just really sweet. But they had the cooking thing challenge, so that was really fun. So Susan was the wife, and oh my gosh, I can't think.
Gary, I have 2 kids, and half the time I get their names wrong. So
But we're supposed to be, watching the show and talking about the show. And so I guess the people that watch will understand that there's no way for us, unless we'd written all these things down
Right.
and, we would be able to remember. So we're just having.
Laura's got the book.
Take notes.
Yeah, pop it.
But I said, then I can't find them.
Yeah.
You know,
Anyway,
when I watch the show, I'm taking notes,
yeah, exactly. Thank you, ladies. Laura, what were you going to say?
Thank you.
no, I was just going to say to Shelley, I purged my notes recently. I'm like, why do I have all these notes
All
about
these notes that would come in handy. But we want to thank all the teams over the last 13 seasons for sharing your stories with us. And we'd like to go ahead in advance to thank all the teams on season 14 for what we're going to learn from watching you. Thank you for sharing your stories. And we hope to have all those teams from season 14 on after day 10 and talk about your journeys. So with that, we really do encourage what Laura said. Please post either on the YouTube video or hop on over to the link for our, the blog post is always on the YouTube video too. And that's what shows up when you see it on Facebook is the link to the blog post. Leave in the comments there if you want either place your favorite memory, not necessarily a favorite team or what pops into your head, because really they're all our favorites. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time on GenFriends, and we will talk about day 1 of season 14.
Bye, y'all. Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.